It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Make sure you get to Joe's Karting today and experience indoor karting at its best. That's Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. All the information you need to get over to Joe's is located at joeskarting.com. All right, we got a big show lined up for you today, so let's get the full preview ready to go. In turn number one, we will recap the racing action from the World of Outlaws in the SLMR Series at I-80 Speedway on Wednesday. And then in turn number two, we'll sit down with the driver of the number 28 DHL Andretti Motorsports IndyCar, Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's going to help us get set for the Iowa Corn 300 at Iowa Speedway coming up on July 10th. Then in turn number three, we sit down with Ben Shelton. The big story that broke earlier this week was that there was 5 drivers that were busted for tire doping, and that's where some of these drivers add chemicals to the tires to soften them up. We'll talk to Ben about those drivers, who they were, their penalties, what softening the tires meant for them, and all that kind of fun stuff. That'll be coming up in turn number 3. Then in turn number 4, we will preview 2 races. Today is Sonoma, and the end of the Fox broadcast. Next Saturday night is the Firecracker 400 at Daytona International Speedway, in the beginning of the NBC broadcast. So we'll preview both of those races, since today's going to be our last show before those 2 races, and we're going to give away a pair of tickets to the Iowa Speedway for July 9th and 10th. That's the ARCA Series race on Saturday night, and that's the Indy Corn 300 race on Sunday afternoon. So make sure you're listening in turn number 4 for the trivia question that, I'll tell you, if you ever pay attention to the interviews that we do during today's show, you're going to know the answer. So make sure you listen in turn number 4 for that question. All right, let's kick off the recap from the World of Outlaws on Wednesday night. We had a great night down there. We got a couple of interviews put in the can for you. We have Terry McCarl and Dusty Zomer coming up probably in the next couple of weeks to be able to play those interviews back for you. But we were right down in the pits getting hero cards and talking with some of the drivers. And let me tell you, it was a hot and sweltering day, if that's really a proper word. But man alive, was it hot down in the pits at I-80 Speedway. But the action, the temperature cooled off, and the action fired up pretty quickly. For the racing action, heat race number 1, Kerry Madsen and David Gravel finished 1-2 in heat race number 1. And you kind of kept your eye on David Gravel as the night went on. He had a very strong car and was really pushing for the win later in that A main event. In heat race number 2, Darren Pittman, Logan Schuchart, who we talked to last weekend, finished 1-2 with Brian Brown finishing 3rd. Heat race number 3, there was Joey Saldana, Ian Madsen, and Donnie Schatz finished 1-2-3 for the final heat race. For your dash, David Gravel, again, up in the front. Joey Saldana 2nd, Darren Pittman, Logan Schuchart, Kerry Madsen, and Ian Madsen. With the World of Outlaws heat races and qualifying races all wrapped up, we're going to skip ahead to the SLMR Series feature event. Tracy Haar in the 5T would start on the pole with Corey Zeitner to his outside. Tad Pospischal and Kyle Burke would start row number 2, with Ben Schaller and Reese Vaught starting in row number 3. Matt Bowler and Ben Sukup would start row number 4. Those are going to be your first 4 starting positions. Early on at this feature race, Tad Pospischal definitely had the fastest car. He had a comfortable lead over Kyle Burke, but Kyle was holding steady. There was a lot of action throughout the field, and there'd be a couple of cautions that would stack him back up and give Kyle a couple of shots at Tad Pospischal. We're going to pick it up with about 8 to go. Anthony Ainsley's got the call, and we're going to take you all down through the last 8 laps as Tad Pospischal and Kyle Burke trade slide jobs to see who can get the win at I-80 Speedway.
Kyle Burke starting to reel in Tad Pospischal. Burke round the outside, and off at turn number 2, you've got a new leader. Kyle Burke now out in front here at the I-80 Speedway with 8 to go. Kyle Burke now out in front. Pospischal trying to give chase, but the Marquette Missile will lead for the first time tonight. Kyle Burke now out in front. Here comes Pospischal back on the inside. The top 2 from last year's point standings now going side by side for the lead. Pospischal back to the inside. At the line, it's going to be Burke by a nose piece. A little bit of contact as they go into turn number 1. Off the bottom of 2, Pospischal throws the slide job on Burke, and Pospischal takes the lead back. What a move by Tad Pospischal. A wild slide job to take the lead back from Kyle Burke. Burke looking to cross back over off of turn number 4. Burke trying to reel in Pospisil. 5 laps to go in tonight's A-main event. Here comes Burke, a good run off at turn number 2. Tad Pospisil able to hold the lead down the back straightaway into turn number 3. Pospisil will beat Burke to the low side of turns 3 and 4. Burke looking to go around the outside to make the pass for the lead. He will. Kyle Burke leads it by half a car length at the flag stand. 4 laps remaining. Kyle Burke back out in front. In car number 14, Tad Pospisil runs second. Pospisil not giving up just yet. Pospisil stays to the bottom off of turns 1 and 2. Kyle Burke down the back straightaway still has the lead. Burke able to cut the bottom off from Pospisil as they go through 3 and 4 this time by. Pospisil will slide up the hill in turn number 4, trying to cross him over. 2 laps to go. Kyle Burke out in front with Pospisil right to the inside. Gonna beat Burke to the line. 2 to go. Beats him to the bottom. Burke with the crossover. Little bit of contact there between the 14 and 04. Into turn number 3. Burke looking for the slider. Pospisil looking to go around the outside to take the lead. He will do it. White flag is out. Pospisil the leader at the flag stand. A lot of good action up front. Pospisil now out in command in number 04. Here comes Burke back to the outside. Into 3 for the final time. It still could be anyone's race. Off of turn number 4, Tad Pospisil is going to get his first win of the year at the I-80 Speedway.
So Tad Pospisil would get the win, but we sat down with Kyle Burke post-race to talk about that battle with Tad Pospisil.
Well, it's probably one of the closest races I've had in a long time, and especially for the win. You know, a very aggressive racetrack and 2 very aggressive drivers that you know, respect each other, but you know, you battle that long and you start losing maybe your perspective once in a while. But, you know, it was fun, and it's always funner to come out on top, but we know that doesn't always happen. So hats off. He deserved it. He drove his butt off, and I'm glad we made him work hard for it.
I was seeing the wily old veteran pulling out some old tricks out of your playbook on that one to try to maybe pull one over on the young kid's eyes.
I was pulling all the tricks I knew, and some I didn't even know I knew. But you know, I was just running out. He knows how to counter the moves, and he's got a good car and a good motor program, and so it's like racing yourself. And pretty soon, you know, it's like playing a chess game. You know, you don't. He can counter any move I throw at him, and I'm countering his. But when the dust settles, he countered the last one and made it work. And you know, he won the race.
So then we found our way over to the winner, Tad Pospisil, the driver of the 04, to talk to him about his win.
You know, we started the race off, and my signal guy kept telling me I had a big lead, and then we had the first caution, and he said I stretched it out again, and the last one he kept telling me it was closer and closer, and Kyle rolled me on the high side, and I gave it all I had. It seemed like when he was up front, my car worked better, and when I got up front, his car worked better. Something about the clean air versus dirty air, but
never heard dirty air doing better for a car.
I know, usually you don't, but tonight it made the car free enough, so under horsepowered, I guess that helps.
So that leads us to our feature event, the greatest show on dirt, the Craftsman World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series. We had some awesome drivers in the house. Lincoln family-based Joey Saldana, Donnie Schatz, Brad Sweet, Brian Brown, the Madsen brothers, Shane Stewart, David Gravel, Paul McMahon, Jason Slides. We had some awesome talent in the house, and it was really exciting to see these guys take laps around I-80 Speedway. I think they did 30 feature laps. And if you want to watch the green flag drop, you can go over to the Front Stretch Facebook page. I got the first lap or so caught on my camera as I was sitting in the crowd enjoying a few beers at I-80 Speedway. Not doing any work that night. I was a spectator with Stan, Caesar, Chris Krug, and Anthony Ainsley came down and sat with us after the A feature call for the SLMR Series. I talked about earlier, David Gravel had a very strong car. He qualified on the pole. Darren Pittman qualified second. Joey Saldana, Kerry Madsen, Logan Schuhart, Ian Madsen, Jason Slides. I was kind of surprised to see Donnie Schatz didn't qualify very well, and it started a little ways back, and I got to wondering if maybe this was going to be another race that Donnie Schatz wasn't going to be able to win. He didn't have a strong car during qualifying races. He didn't have a strong car during his heat races, but you never do count out Donnie Schatz and that Tony Stewart Racing organization. David Gravel, though, had a very good car, was very strong, although when the green flag dropped for the feature event, Joey Saldana was able to take the lead pretty quickly. David stayed right up there in second place until his wings started coming apart and he was losing his aero. Now, we don't have much audio from it, so I just went away with doing any of the audio from Johnny Gibson's call. I do appreciate Johnny letting me use his equipment, though, to be able to record the SLMR feature and the A-main feature for the World of Outlaws. We just didn't have much audio and much time left. We got to get to the rest of the show. So We'll just give you the top 10 after a great battle. Joey Saldana definitely had the car that was going to win that night. It was a battle for second on back. Donnie Schatz, Brad Sweet, who, by the way, Brad Sweet started 17th, made his way up into third. Donnie Schatz has to settle for another second-place finish. Brian Brown finishes fourth. Kerry Madsen, fifth. Ian Madsen, sixth. Shane Stewart, seventh. David Gravel ends up finishing eighth. He came into the pit area, had some repairs, came back out, and even made his way back up into the top 10. That shows you how good of a car he had. Paul McMahon and Jason Sides finish out your top 10. Next time the World of Outlaws will be in action will be around this area at least. I believe they'll be at Junction Motor Speedway in August. Make sure you listen to the front stretch. We're going to do our best to get you tickets to those races so that you can go and enjoy the greatest show on dirt. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2. This is the front stretch.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
My kind of road trip is a little different. Sure, it's got hours of driving with plenty of pit stops, but it's not for minivans. And this drive is one journey that's all about the destination. This is my road trip. This is my Speedway. July 9th, experience the ARCA Racing Series 150 presented by Casey's General Stores. July 10th is the IndyCar Iowa Corn 300. Tickets start at $15 only at Iowa Speedway.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 2, and it's time to change pace just a little bit. Typically, we talk NASCAR stock cars and dirt track, but now it's time to get you set for the Iowa Corn 300 at Iowa Speedway coming up July 10th. So we're going to talk to one of the best IndyCar drivers out there, and that happens to be the driver of the number 28 Andretti Motorsports DHL IndyCar. Ryan Hunter-Reay joining us on the phone. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you back on. We had you on the show about, I think it was back in 2014, and you had a very good Iowa race, which, by the way, from the statistics I can pull, you've had an amazing Iowa Speedway streak going. I think you've won 3 out of the last 4 races.
Yeah, that's right, with a second place wedged in there. But yeah, it's been a great track for us.
What happened? Second place. Come on, Ryan.
Well, what happened was should have won that one. Of course, you're asking me. But early in the race, I just mistimed a pass, clipped my front wing on the back of Graham Rahal's car. Had to come in and get a new front wing. Went all the way to the back, all the way to last place, and came through. Finished second as we were closing in on the leader as the checker flag came out. So it was close, but just wasn't our day.
Was that Joseph Newgarden that won that race?
No, I think it was James Hinchcliffe.
Oh, I think you're right. Okay, that's right. Yeah, that was the year before I got to go down there. I think that was 2013 that you ended up finishing second. But was that pretty fun for you to come back through the field like that, or were you mad at yourself after the race was over because you let one get away?
I was mad at myself. I mean, yes, it was fun coming through, but that's just it sometimes happens that way. When you're charging hard and you're dealing with making decisions at 200 miles an hour, just with a margin of error so small like that, things happen.
Iowa Speedway has always been known for its bumps and what some drivers will call the character in the track. How much do the bumps upset your Indy car?
The cars are so low, right? So we're already running almost on the ground. So when you introduce those bumps, you get a lot of bottoming, but it upsets the airflow of the car. So it can really turn the car around pretty quickly. It can snap on you. It's really hard. It's just very, very tough to get it right. It's a very small window. The setup window at Iowa is very small. It's very tough to get it right, and it's always changing every year.
It's got to be real hard following somebody through those bumps too then, right?
Yeah, for sure. You've got to pick your line pretty wisely. And, on the bottom, you're going to use up your tires a little bit more. On the top side, you're going to be over the bumps. You're not going to use up your tires as much, but you have to be ready to take those bumps. And some setups just can't get over them as well as others. So you're constantly kind of searching around looking for that sweet spot.
When we talked to you a couple of years ago, I think it was back in 2014, the green flag dropped around 6 o'clock, so the track was cooler, the temperature was cooler. It's going to be a hotter day when the green flag drops this time around. Do you expect much of a change as far as grip-wise?
I do expect a bit of a change. It really depends on the weather. If we're dealing with really, really high temperatures and clear skies, sun's out, beating down on the track, it could make things a bit more difficult or change our setup, and it would make the grip level less. But if we're dealing with a relatively cool day, like 75 degrees and cloudy, no, it'll be basically the same as the night race.
This IndyCar schedule seems to have a pretty diverse type of track on it. NASCAR has all three types, but it's very intermediate, mile and a half track heavy. But the IndyCar series seem to have a pretty spread out. Do you have a favorite type between mid-sized tracks, small tracks, big tracks, and road courses?
I just love the mix. IndyCar is the only series in the world that races on every different discipline, being street circuit, road course, super speedway, short oval. I'm a big short oval fan. I have 3 Milwaukee wins and three Iowa wins. I just love that type of racing. It's a certain style that fits me, and but I really like the mix-up. We're going to go from Road America, a big road course, to a short oval at Iowa. You can't get any different than that.
With running Iowa with the short course and the layout, I know the front straightaway being the big arc that it is. I know you have pretty good speed carrying down into one. How big are the brakes there?
Well, how much do we use the brakes?
Yeah, how hard are you on the brakes?
In traffic, really heavy traffic, you'll use the brakes. When you're trying to navigate through traffic and pick your lane and stuff like that. Our cars are so susceptible to dirty air. You have to make sure that you're getting a little bit of clean air on the nose. So you might use your brakes to point the nose a little bit, but we don't use them a whole lot. Yeah, the idea is you don't want to be on the brake pedal. The lifting is one thing. We do quite a bit of lifting during the race, but getting on the brake pedal is usually just dealing with and reacting to some situations in traffic.
So when you're out front early in the race, no lap traffic or anything, you're just really rolling it through the corner then, or into the corner?
Yeah, very little lifting. Some lifting, but not fully flat in the race. But yeah, it ends up being close to flat out.
In the dirt racing world, and in NASCAR especially, when a driver becomes dominant at a track, you can start to see other teams trying to pick up on the little things that they're doing. Is that the same kind of thing that happens in the IndyCar series? You'll start to see other teams kind of hovering around what you guys are doing?
Certainly we've attracted attention at Iowa because of the history that the teams had there, but no, not necessarily. I mean, it's so tight. The competition's so tight. So many 10 different drivers on a given night, a given day, especially at Iowa, have a chance of winning. So, no, it's not quite like that.
When you do come to Iowa, do you get to spend much time away from the track, like go out and pick some corn or anything?
No, I used to drive for Ethanol, so I've been in the area, and I've won this race a few times, so I've done promotional activities in Des Moines and the surrounding areas, and I certainly enjoy going there. Beautiful, beautiful part of the country. I'm not too keen on going there in the winter, but I love being there in the summertime. No doubt.
It's we've had both of it this year. We had a bitterly cold winter, and now we're having a horribly hot summer. So hopefully it cools off by the time you guys get here for the July 10th race.
I hope so. Either way, it'll be a great show. I can assure you that.
Hey, talk to me about these steering wheels. I'm absolutely fascinated with the amount of buttons that are on your guys' steering wheels. Which is harder for you to operate, your IndyCar steering wheel or your pedestrian car steering wheel?
My pedestrian car steering wheel, I think.
I was thinking that I was watching a video today as I was getting ready for the show, and I think it was, I can't remember what driver it was that was going through a road course at Road America, but it was just kind of an IndyCar video, and he's, toggling all the switches and making adjustments. And then I thought, between the blinkers, the wipers, the hazards, the cruise control, all the different options, I wonder which is harder.
Yeah, well, with the IndyCar, you have quite a bit of information that you can see. We have what we call 3 different pages on the dash. We can switch between one being a fuel page, another one being a performance, speed page, lap times and stuff like that, another one being all your temperatures. The drivers really just have to focus on the fuel side of it and the speed. You want to know if you pick this line, if it's faster, and this, that, and the other, and then the other buttons on the wheel are pretty straightforward. Whereas you get in a road car, every one of them is different, and you don't know what does what. I basically just leave them alone.
We're talking with the driver of the number 28 DHL Andretti Motorsports IndyCar. That's Ryan Hunter-Reay. Ryan, what's one creature comfort that you're really stuck on right now? Is it like a tablet, a computer, a music player,
anything with a vibrator in it?
Yeah, just outside of racing, what's a creature comfort you're really stuck on right now?
I have an iPad Pro. I use it. I use it a lot on the road. Just traveling all the time, whether it be for, in flight, watching a movie or doing my race reports and stuff like that. It's got enough memory in it and all that stuff. I could store quite a bit in there.
This is kind of a trick question, but if you were the god of racing and you could change one thing, whether it's in the promotional standpoint, spectator standpoint, performance, whatever it happens to be, tires that never wear out, you never run out of gas, what would be the one thing that Ryan Hunter-Reay would change about racing?
Oh, that's a good question.
We get a lot of good answers, too.
The one thing I'd change is I'd never make the split happen that occurred in IndyCar. The series was so strong back in the early 90s. That's what I came through karting. That was my whole aim, and always was. IndyCar always was. But yeah, it changed the sport forever, for sure. It's great that we're all back together now, but did quite a bit of damage there. But I'm not sure. You always want more horsepower, but everything nowadays is going towards much smaller displacement engines with turbochargers, and that makes it extremely difficult on the manufacturers because we're pulling 700 horsepower out of a 2-liter engine,
right?
2.2-liter engine, and it's crazy, and that's going to continue to go in that direction.
What's one last question before we let you go? IndyCar is your big area right now, and you've been very successful in it. Have you ever explored or had the opportunity to go and race Formula One?
No, I think the fork in the road comes at a much younger age. Either you make the decision to go race go-karts and the younger, the lower formulas in Europe, or you choose to stay here and race. And, I went over there and tested it in the F3, and that's right when I got my Atlantic ride. So I decided Toyota Atlantic ride, which is basically Indy Lights. That's when I decided to stay here. But I think, like I said, that's a fork in the road you face very early on in your career, and that's when the decision has to be made.
Ryan Hunter-Reay, see him defend his title at Iowa Speedway coming up July 10th. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate your time.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Thanks,
it. Look
Ryan.
forward to seeing you guys.
All right, bye. You can get your tickets in advance, iowaspeedway.com. Like I did, I bought my tickets in advance. I got them for $10. You can get them for, no kidding, as much as it costs to get into a dirt track race, a regular weekly race at I-80 Speedway, Eagle Raceway, Crawford County, Shelby, wherever. $10 to get in. It's $10 to go to Iowa Speedway. And we've got tickets we've been giving away for the last couple of weeks. We'll continue to give more away today. So if you don't win those, you're only out $10 if you go over to Iowa Speedway. And it's a fantastic time. When we were over there for the Xfinity race, I was walking around the concourse just seeing all the displays. And by the way, I think I found my next truck.
We ought to organize a group rate and rent a bus.
That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. Who could we get to drive that bus and put a keg on the back of it? Is there anybody we know that doesn't drink?
He might start if that happened.
Get your tickets today for the Iowa Corn 300 at Iowa Speedway coming up July 10th. They're available at iowaspeedway.com. Like I said, they start at $10. They go as high as, I think, $70 or $80 for the really, really good seats. It's a fantastic time at Iowa, and you're not gonna miss out on your $10 or however much you spend on the tickets. You're gonna have a fun time. I can almost guarantee it. We're going to take a break. Dirk and I will be back here on the Front Stretch.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
After 50 years of being America's home track, Eagle Raceway is the place to be on Saturday nights for great dirt track racing. Bring the family out this Saturday for Junior Kids Club presented by Colby Ridge. During intermission, kids 12 and under can compete in the Kids Money Grab on the front stretch of Eagle Raceway. Tickets for kids 6 to 12 are just $5 and kids 5 and under get in free. Gates open at 5:30 with the green flag waving at 6:30. Eagle Raceway, just east of Lincoln on Highway 34 in Eagle, Nebraska.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 3, and it's time to talk with Ben Shelton, the owner of MSR Mafia, man of many talents, and an expert when it comes to dirt racing throughout the Midwest and dirt racing in general. A little bit of a story broke earlier this week, courtesy of Ben and his cohorts that keep these things honest. Ben, there was a little bit of an issue with 5 drivers at Eldora on 9th, 10th, and 11th, right?
Yeah, it this could possibly be one of the biggest situations that ever happened in dirt late model racing. We've had deals where races were 1, maybe 2 guys get thrown out, but to have a deal where 5 guys were found illegal, and obviously 2 of the most prolific drivers in the history of Eldora with Jimmy Owens and Scott Bloomquist, that's going to obviously turn a lot of heads, catch a lot of attention, and create a lot of opinion.
I've only been in the sport for 5 years, very limited in my knowledge, but I've always heard of tire doping. I've never actually heard of it happening, though. Everyone said that's kind of the suspicion of a lot of drivers do it, and that's a go-to whenever somebody's whooping your butt and you're mad because they're beating you, and so your automatic is, well, they're tire doping. Talk me through exactly, to your knowledge, what happened at Eldora that weekend.
I think anything that I would say would really be speculation. I mean, again, these guys, some of them are in the appeals process. I know Greg Satterley actually just put a statement out on his website at gregsatterley.com just moments before his call, stating his side that he's already filed a formal appeal, which will be heard next week. But I guess the gist of the situation is that there were tires randomly selected and tested throughout the weekend at Eldora, and they were submitted to the lab to compare to benchmarks, and those tires were found not to match those benchmarks. So because of that, those drivers were disqualified, and, like anything else in our great country, you do have the chance to appeal it. So that's kind of where things have gone. It's been a very, very, it's kind of like a drag race. It's accelerated off the line. This broke about roughly 9 o'clock Central Standard Time last night. And it literally, I know with my own website, onedirt.com, and other websites like dirtondirt.com, it literally just about shut the websites down. There was so much traffic for people going to find what was going on. So it was, like I said, it was a monumental thing in our sport. And it's definitely, we know the initial details, but everything is far from being determined at this point, as the appeals and everything are just beginning. And
we should preference that this interview was conducted on Tuesday afternoon, and by the time it airs on Sunday, everything's going to change. But this is what Ben knows at the time, what we know at the time.
Everything could change.
Yeah.
Ben, do you happen to know, the article talked about 32 samples. I'm going to speculate that they took 32 different cars and took a tire?
If I told you one way or the other, I'd be 100% lying to you, because I don't know exactly how they've done it. I've heard different things. I've heard sometimes they'll do it off 32 cars. Then I've heard that sometimes there's 4 samples per car. So you've got a lot of different scenarios there of what it could and couldn't be. That's something that really only the UMP officials know, and the Eldora staff. And I don't want to speculate because I can't say in good faith one way or the other. But I would estimate there were probably roughly maybe 10 drivers or so. But even that's speculation. I can't say within goodwill, because I wasn't part of that process. And really, at the end of the day, it's none of my business. For the drivers involved, I'm sure they're asking these questions, and they're entitled to that. But it's kind of outside of my role to be able to ask that. So I don't know how it was distributed and how many they did per car, or any of that.
The violation that was stated on the dirt car racing officials website says that they were in violation of 15.11-G in the rule book, which basically says chemical alterations, vulcanization, tire softening, defacing and or altering the face of the tire lettering and or tire stamping will not be permitted. Chemicals or tire softening is not permitted at any time. I think we're all kind of leaning towards this was tire softening.
Yeah, again, there's so much technology out there. It really could be anything. Who knows what it would be, if they are all indeed found guilty after the appeals and everything. So I think anybody that says this or that doesn't have, whether it's, without being in the lab and having the direct results, being able to compare that to the benchmarks from the tire company, it's hard to say exactly what was found to be out of conformity, but the only thing we know is that it did not match the conformity.
Yeah, I mean, there's been guys caught before that actually are carving part of the sidewall off of one tire and just gluing it onto the other one. They just take a grinder and grind off what was on there. And I know guys have been caught with that for, and I've got plenty of experience with tire softener through drag racing, where it was legal. So we could do it. And there's just about anything that's petroleum-based will soften the rubber from, the common thing that we've actually caught some people with dirt car stuff around here was hand cleaner. Just good old-fashioned, goop or something like that. It's got enough solvent and stuff in it that you just rub your tire down with that, and it'll soften the heck out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and, there's a lot of different things, and, guys try different things. That's the nature of racing. They try different things on different parts of the car, and, again, all this information is so new, and, the teams that I do know, I think, most of the teams, I've talked to a few of them, and they adamantly say, we didn't do this, we're going to get to the bottom of it. So there's a lot of things. You mentioned the show air on Sunday, and it could be interesting to see the turns it takes by then. I mean, from Tuesday to Sunday, that's an eternity in the world we live in now. So, but I know that, Eldor and UMP, they felt very confident in their decisions, and that's why that was released. So, it's definitely the only thing that I know for sure, me personally, is it's been a whirlwind, and it's got social media. I think we broke the internet altogether at one point last night. It's got the racing world abuzz, and it's going to be just sit back. I mean, everybody's got different ideas and different suspicions, and one thing that I'm being very careful to do is to make judgments or to make my own decisions, because one, I don't know all the facts yet. And the other thing is, even once I do, I'm not sure that I'm qualified enough to make a decision from that, because I'm not an expert in this world of tire testing and things like that.
I think your key words you used there was that the officials at Dirt Car Racing and Eldora were very confident in their decision that when putting out this statement and disqualifying these 5 drivers. I'm always the kind of a guy I'm going to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. When I hear negative news about somebody or the possibility of somebody cheating, I always kind of look for the avenue of how could this have happened without their knowledge? And I think I'm coming to the conclusion as we're all sitting here talking that this is something that is very difficult to accidentally happen.
Well, it can't be a part failure. I disqualified a guy several years ago at an IMCA modified race, and he had an open motor where he had to run the chip, and the chip that he had was bad. And we actually sent it. I took it to Tom Gutowski, who's the IMCA director, and he sent it in to MSD, and MSD determined that the chip had not been messed with. It had just failed. It had wore out, busted, whatever you want to say, but it wasn't working like it was supposed to. But it was still a disqualification. And, I mean, the driver, I'm sure, really had nothing to do with it. The part just failed. So
yeah, I mean, there's so many different scenarios there, and without knowing, and again, we don't know exactly what the lab test, indicated. So, there's countless theories and experts out there. It's been almost comical, but it's obviously not funny for the series of the track or these 5 drivers, but it's been comical to watch just the people, some of the judges and juries that have already sentenced them and things like that, or figured out exactly what went wrong or how they were done. The conspiracy theories. There's always no shortage of conspiracy theories in racing, and they are reigning supreme right now. So it's crazy, and like I said, it's probably about the most fired up I've seen our sport in a long time.
Well, do you think this is going to be something we're going to actually find out the test results and more details to it, or is this going to be something that's going to stay behind closed doors?
Yeah, I don't know that it'll be readily be made available to the public, and that's something that across the board tracks and series over the past few years have really done. They don't really want these benchmarks out there that these tires are tested against, because if they do, then that's going to give people an idea of, okay, this is the limits I've got to work within.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful how much rope you throw out there. So I really don't know. Again, I think it'll depend on how these appeals processes go and what's made available to the general public. But my experience to date with other disqualifications and things of that nature is you were told that they've been disqualified for tire alteration, and that's about the extent of the knowledge that you get.
Now, Scott Bloomquist might just quit going to El Toro. He's not having much fun there.
2 years in a row.
You would think that, but he in one race he's made $600,000 there. So that he's won the Dirt Late Model Dream 6 times, and this time was a nightmare for him, and no pun intended. And then he gets disqualified afterwards, and it's really mind-boggling everything that's going on. I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, as are a lot of people. And again, you try to have that neutral judgment one way or the other to evaluate everything. It's a load. I mean, that's the best way you can put it. It is a load to try and comprehend.
The good news is, and something I was very relieved to find out last night, is that this disqualification and this suspension does not affect the Lucas Oil Late Model Touring Series, which Scott and Jimmy and several of the drivers are a part of. So those guys will still be at I-80 Speedway for the Silver Dollar Nationals. Is there any other big races that this is going to impact because these guys are going to be on suspension?
Well, depending on how the appeal process goes, I know, like, for example, Greg Satterley, because he's appealed, he's able to go this weekend to the Firecracker 100, which in Sarver, Pennsylvania, that's a potential $42,000 payday. Other races this could impact would be the Prairie Dirt Classic at Fairbury in late July. That's $25,000 to win. And then the following week up at Cedar Lake Speedway in New Richmond, Wisconsin, the USA Nationals, that's $50,000 to win. So there is a chance for these drivers. And more than that, what you lose on some of this is some of these drivers, especially your Owens and your Bloomquist, they sell a lot of merchandise at these events. So equally important as going to race them is the ability to sell your merchandise. So, there's at this point, as far unofficially, I don't know that they can even set up and selling merchandise to the World 100. So that's a giant impact on a team and their budget when you depend on that merchandise sales.
Yeah. Another thing that is going to impact these 5 drivers, when they do go to a Lucas Oil race, they're going to get a little extra look now.
Well, they might. I mean, this is, they are. I mean, those guys, I think the guys within Lucas do a good job of checking things as well. And, they might get an extra look, but I think if you're doing anything right now, you're definitely dotting your I's and crossing your T's extra strong, whether you've been doing anything wrong or not, because at this point you do know you're under the magnifying glass. So I don't know how much of an issue or non-issue that'll be, but, that could be a good point.
We are less than 24 hours after the story broke. How many phone calls can you count that you've gotten and answers that or questions you've answered?
It's there's no. I'd have to go back and look, and I'm afraid if I do, it's about 4:30 Central Time. I think my first call came in about 7 this morning, and if I could go back and look, I'd probably be pretty depressed when I realized how much time I'm still on the phone today. So it's been since I've been on this interview with you guys, I've had 4 missed calls, and 3 of them I did not recognize the number. So I wouldn't be afraid to say I've had well over 50 calls already today. That many more, double that in text, and then emails is just equally depressing when I look how full my inbox is. So, a lot of people, they know that I'm in the middle of everything and they call, and the reality is, and that's, and I kind of hinted to you guys before we went on the air, that I'd be glad to talk about whatever, but the reality is I don't know much more than, if any more than what we've seen in that statement from last night. So a lot of that's going to come in the next few days as far as appeals and things like that. But definitely not holding anything out on anybody, but I also don't want to mislead anybody and make them believe I know more than I do, because I really don't.
Ben Shelton of MSR Mafia, man, we do appreciate you joining us. Unfortunately, because of the static on the line, we got to let you go. Best of luck trying to get some sleep over the next couple of days.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate your time, Ben.
We've got a couple minutes left in the turn, and I wanted to get your kind of speculation on this, because, Ben's got a responsibility as an honorable journalist to be able to talk about only the facts that he knows. I kind of wanted to kind of get around a little bit as to, you and I were talking off the air about the possibilities of the way this being an accident, and I think you pretty much assured me it would be such circumstantial that one driver having just a slight issue. Okay, but 5.
Well, that's just it. And like he said already, the 22 Greg Satterley had already filed an appeal. And it could be such that he bought whatever tire it was from one of these other competitors, and they didn't realize they gave him one that was juiced up.
Mm-hmm.
That would be about the only way I can see it being a mistake.
You don't suppose this is a handling mistake from a manufacturer, do you? Could because these are Hoosier tires, right?
I'm not sure what the series runs, so that I can't answer. But yeah, my guesses are Hoosiers, and my guess is also that if it is a manufacturer's defect, I would think that these tires were actually sent. Since they were sent to an independent lab.
Mm-hmm.
If these tires all came out of the same run of tires, and that they could tell with their serial number, they could track that one. If all these 5 tires were made through the same batch, then that could be the issue. And there might be a bunch of other guys, and they'll have a recall on tires come out if that's the issue. I would hope that they looked at that.
Mm-hmm. And again, Ben said that the guys at Dirt Car Racing and Eldora felt very confident about this, and it's been a while. I mean, we recorded on June 21st. This incident happened June 9th, 10th, and 11th. That was the race weekend that these tires were confiscated.
It took a week to get them tested.
So you got to imagine they crossed their T's and dotted their I's before they went through with this stuff. Because this is, once again, okay, I'm assuming correctly. I think I'm assuming correctly. Feel free to correct me, but if you're new to the sport like I am, I have always been explained that when it comes to tire doping and you accuse somebody of it, you better know what you're talking about, because you're accusing somebody of about the worst thing they can do.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's up there. It's, when they talked about fining them $1,000 and suspending them, they're suspending them out of potentially a couple $100,000. It's a big deal.
Well,
I mean, this is huge.
And Shepard lost $19,000 because of when they lost the points and the winnings from the weekend at Eldora. Shepard lost $19,000. Satterley lost $4,600. Owens lost $7,600. Thornton lost a little over $10,000, a little under $11,000 actually, and Bloomquist lost $6,100. So I mean, just with that $1,000 fine, they also lost a lot of purse money.
Yeah. So
all right.
It's a big deal.
This is a very big deal. We'll continue to keep this as best we can. The best way to find out more information on this is to follow us on Facebook, because we can get you up to date very quickly on that, and more stories on that as to where we can only update you via the radio show on Sunday morning. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back at turn number 4. We have IndyCar tickets to give away. We have Sonoma and Daytona to preview. We got a lot to do and a little time left to do it. We'll be back here on
My
the Front
kind of
Stretch.
road trip is a little different. Sure, it's got hours of driving with plenty of pit stops, but it's not for minivans. And this drive is one journey that's all about the destination. This is my road trip. This is my Speedway. July 9th, experience the ARCA Racing Series 150 presented by Casey's General Stores. July 10th is the IndyCar Iowa Corn 300. Tickets start at $15 only at Iowa Speedway.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Just about ready to wrap this up. Rolling high, wide, and handsome. 2 gentlemen rolling handsome through turn number 4. Something like that. This is the Front Stretch. Sometimes I shouldn't talk off script. I should just stick to what I know, and that's results from Sonoma. All right, we got 2 races we're going to have to preview for you, because today is Sonoma, the race in California, and then on Saturday night, thank the Lord, NBC takes over with the annual Saturday night race over the July 4th weekend for Daytona International Speedway. So we're going to have the Firecracker 400. So let's talk about Sonoma results from this race in 2015. Kyle Busch was on a streak at this time as he just got back from an injury. when he sustained that injury last year, and he gets the win over brother Kurt Busch, Clint Boyer finished third, Kevin Harvick fourth, Joey Logano fifth, Johnson, Earnhardt, Kane, Newman, and Sam Hornish Jr., his final ride in the Cup Series in that 9-car finished 10th. Congratulations to Sam, by the way, for winning the Iowa Speedway race last weekend at Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, he photobombed my selfie, by the way.
I saw that. How dare he? A good race for several drivers, and I love Sonoma. It's a lot of fun. Drivers that did not enjoy their day at Sonoma. Martin Truex Jr. finished 42nd. He was involved in an accident. So was Carl Edwards, finished 40th. AJ Allmendinger, 37th. AJ's kind of one of those sleepers. He won the Watkins Glen race in, was that 2014?
2 years ago.
And made the chase, and it was so AJ ends up winning that race, and he's been very good at the road courses. He's just told JTG Doherty Racing, get me a good car, I will get the win. And they've been able to give him a good car. They focus on that race as the road courses as their two opportunities to get into the chase. Now, the fact that he finished 37th last year kind of makes you worried, but he was involved in, looks like he's marked as being 2 laps down, but running. Not 2 laps down, 11 laps down. So something happened to him, and I can't remember. I haven't gone back and watched that race yet. Greg Biffle finished 27th. Let's see. Matt Kenseth, 21st. Brad Keselowski, 19th. Brad's another one who's become a very good road course racer.
Well, it's just experience. It's learning how to run the gas and the brake both with your right foot,
And we've talked about this. I think every time a road course comes up, we've talked about this of there's no such thing as a road course ringer anymore because all of these Sprint Cup guys are spending time learning how to race a road course and are very good at it.
Yeah, they're trying to improve themselves at their craft because they have to. Yeah. I mean, they're getting paid a lot of money. You still might see one of these younger guys on a small team that, you might see a Ron Fellows, or you might see somebody enter a car for a Ron Fellows type guy, or Boris Said or something like that.
Yeah, they come in, but they don't stand a chance. And quite frankly, if you're listening to the show and you're thinking about who you're going to take for the Pick'ems contest, don't take one of these ringers that's going to come in because, honestly, I think that Brad Keselowski's got a much better chance at winning. AJ Allmendinger has got a great chance at winning. Tony Stewart's pretty good at the road courses. Help me out, list off some other guys that are good. Jimmy Johnson's pretty good at the road courses.
Both Busch brothers.
Yeah,
Yep. I mean, everybody. Clint Boyer's won Sonoma before.
Casey Kane's been up there in the road courses before.
Yeah, like I said, it's a who's who when it comes to the road courses. That they're very similar to the next race, which is a super speedway race, because they are a crapshoot.
Absolutely, and you can't tell which one's the bigger crapshoot because you could just as easily get caught up in a wreck in Daytona and have a horrible finish after having a fantastic car as you can getting dumped going into one of the turns at Sonoma and finishing at the back of the field. So it's complete crapshoots. You're absolutely right. And these races used to be road course ringer heavy because when they first introduced road courses into what was the Winston Cup Series, now the Sprint Cup Series, these guys, the heavy hitters, the Dale Earnhardts, the Darrell Waltrips, the Richard Pettys, they weren't good at road courses, and so they generally were a mid-pack driver, while all these IndyCar drivers or kart drivers or experienced drivers who go and race these road courses on a regular basis understood the braking and the turning and how to do it. Now, all these guys have grown up watching it and doing it and winning at it.
Yeah, and they've gone to the Skip Barber School of Driving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's several of them, but that's a pretty big one. And they've learned to do this stuff, or these teams have hired your Ron Fellows, Boris Seds, et cetera, to teach the guys just individually. And everybody wants to be good at all 36 races.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's only a couple road courses, they're still. Once you learn to drive a road course, you could drive all 10 of them if they raced at the Road Americas and everywhere else. So.
The Toyota SAVEMAR 350 at Sonoma on Fox Sports 1 set for the green flag at a little after 2 o'clock, so that means coverage will begin at 1, and this is the final race for Fox Sports 1, and I am not sad at all. I mean...
You're going to miss Larry Mack, so...
I do. Okay, so I think we've got a little bit of time. When we were down at Kansas in May, I got a little huffy with you because you were giving me grief about Tony Stewart and how I was man-gushing on him. I was legitimately man-gushing on Larry McReynolds when I saw him at the pits at Iowa Speedway.
Yes,
I turned to you and I go, oh, there he is. And you go, who? And I go, oh, Larry Mack. He's right over there. He's talking to somebody. And you're like, oh, my God. I think you just turned and walked on.
I don't know him.
I do enjoy Larry Mack. I think he's fantastic. But there was an article that was put out by thefrontstretch.com earlier this week, and I read the entire thing, and it's a horribly written diatribe of this guy's complete opinions with very little facts behind it, but he does bring up a lot of good points that how antiquated Fox's broadcast has been and how it's time that NBC showed them last year with Steve Letarte coming in and being so articulate and very well versed, and everybody in that booth with Rick Allen, Jeff Burton, and it's Steve Letarte. They all understand their roles. But when you listen into the Fox broadcast, it seems like there's a constant fight with Darrell Waltrip always wanting to say it right. And I got a kick out of one of the articles. One of the lines he said was that Jeff Gordon would make an intelligent observation, and then Darrell Waltrip would repeat it and spin it off as if it was he was one that said it first. And that kind of stuff just absolutely irritates the bejesus out of me when people do that. And that's kind of what Fox has become. I have no problem with their sponsorships and their commercials and that kind of stuff. My original grief was when they would cut away when you knew a fight for the lead was coming. But they're also scrapping for every ratings point they can get, and sponsorships have got to be taken care of. So, as a salesman in the radio world and understanding that avenue of it, I don't blame them. It makes me mad as a viewer, but that broadcast team has got to get broken up, and they've got to bring some fresh blood in there. The article that was written at frontstretch.com brought up a really good point that Darrell Waltrip's last win was before Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney were alive, and Joey Logano was all of 2 years old.
Well, I know when I was doing the officials work, and I left in 2005, but Darrell would come run a truck like at Martinsville for a couple of years, but I don't think he's been in anything since like 2002 or 3.
Yeah. Like
I said, it was several years before that he won. I mean, I don't know when his last win was, but I'm going to say 95 maybe.
Seems about right. I thought he said somewhere like 96.
Could be. I'm 1 year away, and like I said, I was just guessing.
Yeah.
But, he is so far behind the technology, even though he kind of tries to stay up on it. You haven't driven in a while. You don't know what the cars are doing. You don't know what it would be like to go ahead and adjust your track bar from inside the car.
Take the cues from the other sports. They cycle their announcer teams out every couple of years because you got to bring that guy in that understands the new tricks, the new ways. And that's where Steve Letarte was really instrumental in the success that NBC saw last year, was because he was just fresh off the pit box. He understood the little tricks of the trade and how these little things make differences. And then the other guys in the booth would say, you're probably right, Steve. Let's build off of that and let's continue off that storyline rather than fighting him on what he was saying.
If we go back to talking about, DW not winning in a while, Jeff Burton hadn't won in a while either.
Right.
But he's the third voice, and he knows that.
Yeah.
He knows Rick and Steve are going to do all the talking, and he chimes in, a little bit from the driver's perspective. I mean, those three guys acted at last year's or first year like they'd been doing it for 20 years together.
I cannot wait. And we're working on getting one of the NBC reporters to come on the show and preview the next couple of races, but we just kind of ran out of time. And Ben, honestly, I hate to say it, but I think Ben Shelton's interview last term was more important than having one of the NBC guys come on, because
with our base.
This is a very big story locally with the tire doping situation. But we're kind of going long in turn 4, so we got to wrap things up. Let's give away a pair of IndyCar Series tickets before we get to previewing Daytona and the race on Saturday night this coming Saturday night. So the question to you is, in turn number 2, we sat down with Ryan Hunter-Reay. What car number does Ryan Hunter-Reay run in the IndyCar Series?
I know.
About as simple as it can get. We love to give these tickets away. You're going to win a pair of tickets to Saturday night's ARCA Series race at Iowa Speedway and Sunday's IndyCar race, the Iowa Corn 300 at Iowa Speedway. I guarantee you're going to have a good time when you go to those races. 402-573-0590. First person to tell Craig what car number Ryan Hunter-Reay runs in the IndyCar Series will win those tickets.
And that race is those two races, July 9th and 10th?
Correct. ARCA's 9th, and the IndyCar is on the 10th. All right, let's talk Daytona International Speedway. Last time we were here in July for the Firecracker 400. Actually, it was a Coke Zero 400. I think it's a Firecracker this time, right? Or was that
to me? It always has been and always will be the Firecracker 400. It's on 4th of July weekend.
I think it's the Coke Zero 400 now. That Coca-Cola sponsorship money kind of kicks out the Firecracker.
Yeah, still Firecracker, baby.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. got, I believe it was his second win in the season. Jimmy Johnson second. Denny Hamlin third. Kevin Harvick fourth, Kurt Busch fifth, Gordon, Dillon, Newman, Bain, and Boyer rounded out your top 10. There's really not much analyzing this race other than the lower downforce packages are not in play at Super Speedway, so it's not going to be in play
today. Same package they had last year.
At the race on Saturday. So if you're talking about the pickups contest, I think I'm telling you to shy away from Dale Earnhardt. He has not had the luck at the super speedways that he did last year.
If you've used him twice, you can't use him again. So he's out of my realm.
You've used him twice and gotten a whopping
like 3
6
points or something. Yeah, it ain't been very much. But it's going to be the crapshoot race. Let's go ahead. Maybe take one of the young guns here. One of them.
Chase Elliott looked really strong at Daytona earlier this year.
But lousy at Talladega. He got into a little melee at Talladega.
He's had a little issue with his car snapping loose out of the corner, and he's not able to handle it.
But it's the same thing that
happened to Dale.
Junior. Yep.
Right.
Both races for Dale.
Yep. Kyle Larson, 39th this time last year at Daytona for the spring race, for the summer race. Brad Keselowski, 29th. Kind of rolling through some of the heavy hitters that finished in the back. Matt Kenseth, 23rd. Joey Logano, 22nd. All those cars were on the lead lap. There was 28 cars on the lead lap, including Brendan Gaughan, by the way. He was the final car on the lead lap. So that's going to do it for us. The race for Saturday is on NBC. It's not going to be on one of the upper channels, the higher tiered channels. Set for 6:45, so pre-race coverage will probably start about 5:30, 5:45 with green flag right at about 6:45.
And I personally think they missed the boat a little bit on this with the holiday being Monday. They should have put this Sunday evening.
Yeah, but they like that Saturday night race. I don't know what the fans at the track like the Saturday night race, but the ratings are always terrible because everyone's out doing Saturday night things rather than watching the race.
That's
so
right.
It's going to be
they could have done the Sunday night deals, and the people still would have showed up in the stands that were going to go because they can travel back on Monday. They still got the hangover day to get over it.
All right, so we're going to wrap the show up. We appreciate everybody joining us. Ryan Hunter-Reay in turn number 2, Ben Shelton in turn number 3. If you missed any part of today's show, you can always go onto YouTube at about 10 a.m. this morning, and we will get the show posted. We'll do it again next weekend as we will be live recapping the action from Daytona International Speedway. We'll probably have Stan Caesar on to talk about Saturday night's action at Eagle Raceway.
We'll talk a little bit about Sonoma.
And who knows what else we'll do. This will be the front stretch. We'll do it again next weekend. Thanks a lot for listening. This is AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
After 50 years of being America's home track, Eagle Raceway is the place to be on Saturday nights for great dirt track racing. Bring the family out this Saturday for Junior Kids Club presented by Colby Ridge. During intermission, kids 12 and under can compete in the Kids Money Grab on the front stretch of Eagle Raceway. Tickets for kids 6 to 12 are just $5 and kids 5 and under get in free. Gates open at 5:30 with the green flag waving at 6:30. Eagle Raceway, just east of Lincoln on Highway 34 in Eagle, Nebraska.